SLACanada Chat. I am Juanita Richardson. I'm the past president of SLA Canada. If you are a member of SLA and have selected Canada as your community, thank you. If you are a member of SLA and have not selected us, please remember to do so. And if you are not a member, you are. And if you want to see more programs like this, please consider joining us. SLA Canada is a fun group of diverse information professionals from across the country and elsewhere, clearly, as we see today. And we welcome your participation and interest. First, before we get to the program, as our industry partner chair, my other hat in this association, I have news. I am so pleased to announce that we have secured our first sugar maple sponsor for SLA Canada, Dow Jones Factiva. So as our sugar maple, yes! Good Lord. We've been talking for some time to Dow Jones, and I'm just so happy that Jason was able to bring this in for us. So as our sugar maple sponsor, Factiva will be sponsoring our fantastic programs for the next 12 months. We've seen an early lineup of programs for the rest of the year and have to thank Jane Dysart from our inaugural sponsor, Dysart & Jones, for leading this programming in collaboration with other SLA Canada members. So Jason from Factiva wanted to be with us today, but unfortunately had a conflict. I would like to thank Jason very much for his work behind the scenes to secure this sponsorship. And he sent a few words about Dow Jones Factiva, who I think many of us know well, the organization, but I'll just share his words. Welcome. He's so pleased that Factiva was able to come to the SLA Canada table as a sponsor. Factiva is a professional research platform and global news database with an archive that spans more than 30 years with 33,000 sources. Its advanced search, alerting, and sharing capabilities provide research and information professionals the ability to cut through complexity and find the solution quickly. This unrivaled selection of global news and data is accessible via the Factiva platform on mobile devices or integrated into advanced feeds and APIs. So back to our event today. This particular program was organized by Bronwyn Smith, who's been working with Jane's team on programming. And so to introduce our speaker, I will turn it over to Bronwyn.
Thanks, Sunita. So I'm Bronwyn Smith. I'm the Western Canada Programming Director for SLA Canada this year. And I'm very thrilled that Paul, he sent me an email through SLA Connect, and I'm very pleased to have him today. So I would like to welcome Paul Cuomo, who will be sharing the Jobs to be Done framework for library and information professionals. So in his day job, he's a digital content management specialist with TDNet, and he has his MBA in technology management. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what he has to share. And especially as a relative newcomer to the SLA community, it's really good to have a nice diversity of speakers. So there will be time at the end of Paul's talk for questions, and you can pop them in the chat, or if you prefer to take yourself off mute at the end, you can ask questions that way too. I will be monitoring the chat, so don't worry, your question will not be ignored. If it is in the chat, I will make sure to make note of it. And that's all I have at the moment, so I will just pass it over to you, Paul, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say today.
All right, great. So I am going to share my screen and go to present. And if anyone could just let me know that they can see my screen, then I can just start talking.
You can start talking, Paul. It's all
okay,
good.
Great. Well, good afternoon. I think for some people, maybe good evening or good morning, everybody. My name is Paul Cuomo. I am a digital content management specialist with TDNet. And today my objective is to really talk a little bit about a topic or a thought process that is common in the technology space. And this, I like to call a thought process called the Jobs to be Done, is utilized within organizations to help them develop products that customers could buy. It's utilized amongst organizations to help them choose particular innovations or software for staff or users internally. And really there's lots of different uses for this particular for this particular methodology. And look, I'm kind of I'm an outsider. I'm new to the library space. So I think it's if you're an outsider, and while there's a learning curve to your craft, I took the thought process of, hey, listen, what could I perhaps provide that I used at other technology companies that I worked for, and possibly hand off to you. So I have the attitude is, hey, listen, if there's one or two things that you take out of here that you can use, great. If you think it's, not useful, great. But it's something where, listen, as a librarian or as an information professional where you need to purchase or you need to innovate, your center or your space, this could be useful for you and your team to help you make sure that you're on the right path. All right. So thank you so much for getting it done. I just put a little quick agenda. I am, it's not, my slides are, I'm in the working process as far as making them kind of fancy, but I did the best I can. So I'm going to go over a little bit about me. I'll talk about a little bit about some decision-making issues that come into play as it pertains to making decisions on technology. So I'll kind of set the table for really the jobs to be done framework. So I really wanted to simplify this as best I can. So we'll just go from there. All right, so a little bit about me. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I'm actually I'm actually doing this presentation from the Bronx, New York. I've lived around here really my whole life. I grew up like five miles from here, so I didn't fly too far away from the to the coop. As far as TDNet, if you're not familiar with TDNet, we essentially provide discovery and content management solutions within the healthcare, biomedical space. We work with special libraries. We're big into pharma, and we recently have launched a solution for the legal market for law libraries. As I mentioned, I am a newcomer. I'm learning every day about what you go through as an information professional. I respect it more and more. Librarians are pulled in a million different directions, and it's really, I can see how challenging it is that you just have to satisfy so many people. And if I can help in any way I can, that's what I really try to do. As far as my interest, I'm reading this book, highly recommend it. Great book. It's called The Liberated Mind. It's a great thought process book. That's by Stephen Hayes. That's my book of the month right now. Find it very, very helpful. I am actually a pizza enthusiast. I do make, my family's from Italy. That's my background. So I do make Neapolitan pizzas. I have my own little portable oven that I do in my spare time. I love languages. So I have family in Italy, so I practice Italian, and I'm also an avid runner. So try to stay in shape as best I can. So that's really what I'm all about. So really, what is it? It's really, Jobs to be Done is really a framework that is, it's really designed, it's a way of thinking that is going to really align the users. And in your case, I look at it as patrons and really staff focused. It's a process that's used by all of these companies, Apple, Facebook, Tesla, for the reasons that I mentioned, for products, for internal process improvement and innovation. And it's really a great framework to kind of categorize, define, and capture needs, right? Librarians, is one thing I noticed, the users have so many needs, diverse group of patrons. How do you categorize that? How do you, if you have a problem to solve, how do you know which one's more important? Because this is money, right? You have to invest money into these solutions, and this is going to help. So why is it applicable? Lots of moving parts. Like I mentioned, once you've been to one, my famous saying is that once you've been to one library, you've been to one library. They're all different. All right. They're all different. You need to keep a lot of people happy. I definitely noticed that about your space. And one thing I think how this can make a really a big difference for you is if you go through this framework and you show your superiors the detail that you went through to help to find out what the needs were within the patrons, within the staff that utilize any type of technology that you're considering to buy, it will be impressive. It will be really impressive. And if you can tie that to the overall kind of goals a lot of the organization, I mean, you'll be golden. So I want to thank this young lady, Sunita Mahotny, if I might be pronouncing it wrong, but she kind of got me reinvigorated into this process. Here's the link to this article. She put together a simplified version. I took some pieces of that along with some of the experiences I had with my other companies and combined it. Highly recommend that this is that you read this what she has to say about jobs to be done. I had to add that. She's a product lead at Facebook. Very, very bright, very, very bright young lady. Now, so there's a couple of things with regards to some really important questions that you should really look at. And I took these from a combination of a couple sources, and we use these questions that we asked ourselves. And I'm going to really see if we can apply them to the library space, or if you're looking to innovate or invest in some sort of technology solutions, what are the types of questions that you should be asking, right? Or the information you should be finding, right? Who are the users? Who are the customers? Who are you serving, right? Just break it down. What I'm finding is that there's different types of patrons, different types of users. Mention your staff. Just make sure that's pretty much defined. What are they trying to do? Why are you interested in innovating, or why are you interested in a particular software solution, a CMS or a discovery? Like what are they trying to get done, and how could that help? What are their desired outcomes? Right? What are they looking to get out of the software, or what are they looking to get out of their main task rather? How do they measure value? Is it going to be, well, they really want to lean on the librarian to do most of the work or the questions, or is this going to be something that they're going to use? Do you have different segments of patrons that have different needs, that need different outcomes? This is a big one to me, especially if you are in working within within the healthcare space, and your users of your technology are residents or doctors, and you have to really make sure you kind of note that information. Are there ones that you should target in particular? How do you weight these particular users? How would you define, how can you tie it to the value proposition for the library? That's another important question. And how should it position with your existing solutions? Obviously, every library has lots of technology. How do we need it to talk to each other and have a harmonious ecosystem? Right. And also, this is a fearful one, like what new processes must we create? This is, I find that this is something that is important. Do we need to kind of reinvent the wheel, or can we keep our existing processes? And how does that generally look? So the three common problems that what we found, or that what was found when people in the library, or not, but just in organizations, that you need to be aware of, is that a lot of times people implement their own vision. They're just implementing what they feel the division, the library should look like, right? That's a common issue that we found. Some people, and I say the more technological decision makers, they are excited about a technical challenge in your space. I'd say that there's definitely more. There's definitely more that's coming more to the forefront. That technology is definitely being embraced more in your space. And another thing too is a lot of people can't really crisply like articulate what is the value proposition. Everyone on the team who may be part of a decision for maybe a new library system, they all have different wants and needs, and there's all different levels of importance. So you can kind of imagine that could be an issue. Now, why a lot of times these things fail, why, and I've seen this and I've come across this when I speak to librarians who've either implemented a system that's, once you implement a system, it's hard to kind of go back. You've made the commitment, right? But why a lot of them, why they fail. I mean, the goal is really straightforward. If you think about it, it's really you're really coming up with a solution that addresses unmet customer needs, right? And the way people are making decisions on buying technology is they do it really in two methodologies, and they're both kind of flawed in their own ways. One is what they call the ideas focused, or which we'll get into, and the second one, which has its good intentions, is needs first, where you're really focusing on customer needs, but there's some definition issues with this, and I want to touch upon these real quick. So the ideas, what does this mean? So this is when you and your team get together, we need a new CMS, we need something, we need a new software, and you just essentially are writing down from your own perspective what you think you need. You're brainstorming, you're maybe utilizing on a very superficial level what you feel the needs of particular patrons are, and a lot of times this type of methodology kind of really kind of misses the mark. So this is really while brainstorming is a good idea, making a decision, you can really overlook a lot of important aspects of customer or user need. All right. Now, there is another particular reason here is that's part of the idea first framework, is there's a lack of really a knowledge of your customers' unmet need, in your case, your patron's unmet need. So I kind of have a little example of what this looks like. So sometimes we get calls from librarians, and as you know, TDNet, they have the TDNet Discover product. And sometimes we get calls, or we've gotten a call saying, you know what, Paul, the TDNet Discover is really kind of not really working for us, because when the users are typing in a particular search term, it's really the journey to the full text is just really too long. They just don't like it. We just need a quicker path to really get to the full text of an article, or to a particular journal. Well, the reality is that with regards to utilizing Discover, the way I like to explain this discovery search, it's kind of like creating a haystack to find a needle, right? It's a research tool. So you're putting in a very broad term, and then your solution, and then provides you with the correct facets and filters to really drill it down. So I think there's this really has to be taken into account with regards to really understanding the unmet needs, and also their understanding of what the technology actually does. All right. Now, another one is a problem with this methodology is that a lot of times patrons can't really articulate the type of solutions that they want, right? For example, we launched something called TDNet Legal. It's a law library solution. It's a content management solution. So in law libraries, it could be a little bit different. We're finding lawyers are things are obviously going digital, and the users of this type of solution are going to be not just researchers and librarians, it's actually lawyers. And then when you incorporate their feedback from this particular, or if you think about what they would actually need, now you're talking about they want to index information on patents, on case texts, on all this, and that is just gonna that could really bottleneck like a company like ours who wants to make the best product. So we have to really kind of rank all these needs from these patrons, and a lot of them think that it could be kind of easy, just, oh yeah, you can index all this stuff. So it's just sometimes just a lack of knowledge on the patron's part, which could be challenging. All right, and the second problem that it kind of makes sense is really what they call the needs approach. Now, this is a noble approach. This is where organizations are utilizing, are really looking to listen to the particular needs of the patrons. They utilize surveys, they have focus groups, and they're really listening to kind of capture all these leads. But a lot of problems kind of arise because there's just so much input that comes back from from these users, that these need to be ranked, and it's kind of very, very difficult to really kind of capture which needs to really focus on first. So these are just kind of some of the issues or challenges that the Jobs to Be Done framework really address. So really, what are the core, what is the core functional jobs, and really for a company or for an organization to be successful at innovation, it means they not only need to know like their market, but they need to determine what needs are unmet, which segments are important to focus on. All right, this talking with staff and multiple departments on technology solutions, obviously getting IT involved is very, very important. So they're involved in this process. And what's also cool about Jobs to Be Done is that the process can be revisited. This could be revisited quarterly, and it's a very, very flexible framework. So now we're going to really get into the Jobs to Be Done statement. We're gonna move toward that. So first, what I want to do is, what tools did the company that I worked for kind of use to capture important information from our users, right? So, or what did we do? So we made sure we defined our audience clearly. In your case, your patrons and their needs, and you segment, like I've said. Do your research. And what we used, right? You may not see this in a Jobs to Be Done book, but we used a persona grid. Now, this may look a little weird because you may have not seen this before, but this is actually really important. If you can capture this type of information from your users as part of the process, this could help you in choosing the solution that would make the most sense for your organization. And I'll give you an example. Gamification. Softwares now have, a lot of software companies are incorporating gamification into their solution. Tokens, making things such as games. I mean, I'm a Gen X person, so it kind of should have started with MySpace, with like video games and whatnot. But I never was into those things, but it's a big thing. It's a big thing. And the software solutions now that are really gaining the most traction, the companies utilized or captured this type of detailed information from their users to find out, you know what, these people, their hobbies, they were lots of gamers, lots of people who did games. So, as we evaluate this solution or a couple of solutions, oh, well, this one does have that functionality, and we do seem to have an audience that can fit that, that kind of would gravitate to that type of platform, all right, to accomplish things. And in this particular, this is a detailed one that you can make ones yourself, but this was what we use at our last company. And they use this internally for our organization, but we found this to be totally useful, and I think it would be great as part of your evaluation. Now, obviously, you want to talk to your users, which is going to be part of the process. Prioritize, which I said, and now it's going to come down to crafting a statement. Now, crafting a statement. What this does, by creating a Jobs to Be Done statement, right? Based on all of the information that you collected, based on all your prioritization, this is really where you can narrow down or really find out if you're going to be helping, if the solution you want to choose is really going to help and bring the, and really innovate your space. So crafting a statement starts with these first. It goes, when I, and then there's a context for the issue, which we'll go into here, but, which is the barrier, help me, which is the goal, which you're looking to accomplish. So the barrier is the challenge. Help me is the goal you're looking to accomplish. So I, which is, and then this is the outcome. So here's just a quick example, right? So it says, when I need to understand how people are searching for content or a library content management system, but I have different sources of data that tell me different stories, help me easily pull together one source of truth so they can make better decisions. So this statement was crafted from all of this information that they captured, and it's going to play a big role into finding a solution which best fits which best fits their particular library. And kind of finally, I wanted to kind of tie it all together with a real life example. The company Peloton, which is that the exercise company. So I thought this was a really nice example of a job to be done template, and how you could see how they captured the data, how they used it to form a statement. So what did they find who their core audience was? It was upscale, fitness oriented, super moms or dads, right? Those are the people that were really they found to be their core audience. What were the motivations of these people, right? So they took that grid that I showed you, and they found out, they did their research. They are all about working out, staying healthy, feeling good. They liked, working out as a social experience. So they liked that aspect. And if you know Peloton, they ended up building those into those their fitness equipment. And what are the barriers? Like, what were the challenges for these people? Well, difficult to go to the gym or to classes because most of them are parents and they have kids. So it's a real challenge. And I love this phrase, like, what else are they hiring or firing? There's like a saying that says, people hire or fire problems and solutions. So what are they hiring? What do they belong to? Gyms or studios? What are they firing? They're home equipment, gym equipment. So they kind of like the gyms or studios. They don't like a home gym equipment, but they know gym equipment works. Home gym equipment works. So what does Peloton do? Right? They ended up creating a very popular product with this. So this was their statement that Peloton came up to develop their solution. Is when I need an option to work out, but I can't go to my favorite studio, help me to get a convenient and inspiring indoor workout so I can feel my best for myself and my family, right? So this is really, I think this is a fantastic example of how the thought process went to really solve the problem. And this is where I decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop this presentation right here because I don't want to really go into it anymore, because it could be something that could, because it's a new concept, and let's just kind of keep it very, 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 very high end. And that's basically it. If there are any questions, feel free to let me know. But that's pretty much it as far as like a high level 1,000-foot view of jobs to be done.
Thank you, Paul. My quick question to start with, this Bronwyn, is do you find yourself applying this framework to just your daily life or very small problems, shall I say?
You can apply this framework to anything. You can apply this framework to anything. I actively work, when I actively speak with prospects or even existing customers, I definitely try to bring this bring these concepts into play. We're, as a company, we're working more with the knowledge management folks in knowledge management industry. And when you're more connected with knowledge management, they're connected with CIOs and so forth. So this really kind of can really come into play, because CIOs have they have a lot of kind of complex information needs. So you can absolutely do it. I mean, crafting a statement is as simple as this, and making sure that you're capturing the right needs and ranking them is really important, and can be of assistance.
Can we ask questions, Bronwyn?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
Should we go back to seeing people's faces, or do we want the presentation up still at the moment?
I'd love to see everybody's face. I don't know about everybody else.
I can stop the share.
There you go. Thanks. That just makes it a bit easier. So if you have a question, please jump in there.
Yeah. No offense if you did. I know this is I'm taking a stab. This is my second attempt at trying to break this down.
It's great. Paul, I just put in the chat for everybody that, the link to Strategyn, if they're interested. Strategyn has their free ebook and their videos. And I just wonder, how did you get introduced to the methodology?
So I worked for a software company before this, and the company was struggling. It was really struggling, and it was eventually taken over by private equity, and private equity hired a consultant who introduced us to this strategy as a way to help us make a decision help the company make a decision on a solution that would benefit us, on a software that would benefit us. So it wasn't necessarily an outside customer. It was really the customer were the internal staff, internal people, and it's the same all around. Whether it's a library or organization, you just have lots of different people with needs, with levels of understanding that are different. It's just really, it's much more challenging. I just found it to be, selecting software is much more challenging, especially now when, one change can just completely disrupt an ecosystem.
Right. Has anybody on the call used the methodology before? Anybody at all? No?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so I think it's terrific.
Rebecca, I think it has elements, I put it in the chat, of things that we've been investigating over time. One is the personas piece, and what it does is it ties together things that we look at in isolation. So you've got your personas, you've got your journey mapping, and how do we integrate all that to actually interpret it?
Right.
And then I loved Richard's comment about known item searching, because that's not a customer journey, that's a transaction. And discovery tools do known item searching badly.
Yeah.
But that's not what they're for. How do you test discovery to find things you didn't know?
Yeah.
Or didn't know enough about, or how it relates to things, and how it might fit on a searcher's path, a decision maker's path, and the journey that they're going on, rather than our little blinkered view of the search they're getting after they've done it, saying, I need this document.
Yeah, and that I go through that a lot. I get that a lot. And that example that I showed you, it was a librarian. She's like, I don't know if we're gonna stick with TDNet. It's just, we just can't find what we're looking for. Well, it's not the spirit of what the product is, not the spirit of that. It's a research tool. Whatever Discover tool you use, it's a big picture research tool. And create a haystack, find the needle, all right, and give them the tools to help them find the needle. There are things you can do to improve it by, just let them show results of just subscribed content or peer review.
I mean, those of us that have been in the industry for a long time, and I'm one of them, we bemoaned the loss of serendipity by not browsing the shelves. And now when we give them the haystack to needle model, where they're going to find things they weren't expecting, and it's going to lead them in new directions, they want to go directly to the thing they want. They don't want to be interrupted by serendipity. And it's like, but we're building back in the ability to discover things that you didn't know you needed. And I think that my take on this is, librarians are surrogates for a user population. We're not always good surrogates sometimes, especially when we look at knowledge and at challenges that are not solved by a reference, a point, And, I'm on a detail now in my, in an innovation lab. So I'm beginning to rethink what we're here for. It's not to deliver the request, it's to open the doors to new things and to new ways to think about the problem being expressed. So, I'm excited. I'm definitely going to look at jobs to be done, at my new job and in my old job, so that I can begin to open my own mind to meeting that need, and having new ways to think about it. Thank you.
And that's very well articulated, Richard, because you and I have both dealt with very defined users groups whose needs are specific, but they're around discovery. So when you're in medicine or when you're in law, you look at things, and when I've done hundreds of focus groups with end researchers in the law and librarians in the law, and there's almost no overlap in what they expect from the experience. And that's fascinating because we're trying to sell our services to the end users, and the vendors are trying to sell us stuff that meets the needs of the end user, and we don't necessarily, we need a bridge to understand how it serves their end user rather than the librarian's specific experience.
And another thing, and I'd love your opinion on this, is that there's still quite a few libraries that I work with where I don't know, I like I said, and I would love to learn this from you, the team out there, is that a lot of times, like they're doing the searches. So residents or users just go to them and they're typing, they're like doing the discovery. It's not, I don't know if to me, I'm just like, well, wait a second. I go, so if you're solving most of the problems, people are coming to you, they were looking for something specific, and then you're using discovery. I don't know if librarians do that because like, oh, this makes me more valuable at my job. If I just kind of punting them back to if I punt that back to the users, they may complain. I would love your opinion on that, because
sorry, I'll step in a little bit here. I'm not quite at a hybrid position, but it's almost like that. We are not gatekeepers anymore. And that's one of the positions I see what you're trying to kind of look at. Well, I certainly am not a gatekeeper. We provide the tools to the scientific staff. And I like Richard's idea about the serendipitous approach, because basically scientists, as far as I can tell, I've worked for them for 20 years or more now. That's a large part of what they do. Right. So the idea of getting away from a paper-based concept is interesting to me about how do they do that in an electronic world, but that's another problem for another day. But I have staff who basically use me on a continuum. Some of them do everything for themselves because we provide the tools to do that. And others go, you're the expert, in commas, as far as I'm concerned, do it for me. So the thing is, it's a bit of a struggle for me to kind of, get to a point where I'm saying to people, hey, these are the tools, use them if you will, don't use them, I'm happy to do it for you if you want. And so then you sort of become hopefully a little bit more expert in what people are looking for. And then, and then sort of thinking to yourself about the other people who basically, either don't approach me at all or only approach me on a very infrequent basis, because essentially they're saying, help, I can't find this, can you do this for me? Yeah. Because you're thinking to yourself, well, how are they cope? How is that working? And I'll give you a bit of a concrete example, and it's many years old now, but we do a lot of work for our Ministry of Health here in New Zealand. And I heard anecdotally through someone within our organization that one of our top researchers in a particular field was being told by that particular ministry that the work he was doing for them was not as complete as they thought it should be, even using the tools we were giving him. Now, I didn't go and approach that person, which, you know, I should have done, but those sort of questions kind of come up a little bit because of that way I probably believe a lot of us these days are, where we're providing the tools to people and giving them the training. Some will come back to you, some may not. Some, well, as I said, in my case, use me for almost everything. But those people who we're saying to go do it yourself, you know, how that's the question that comes into my mind sometimes, is how are they coping with that, giving them everything, and are they actually finding what they need?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you know, that's, I mean, it's kind of like one of those struggles these days where everything is going digital. You know, how much are we empowering our staff to do that, you know, and are they doing it successfully? So it's kind of a really interesting, I mean, you know, you just have to go with it because that's the way it is. But it is an interesting conundrum as far as I'm concerned.
And you know where I find that it's really interesting is with law libraries, because now you have this move to digital, which has been accelerated because of the pandemic. Traditionally slow moving space where everything was print. Now it's moving to digital. And my cousin, who's a lawyer, when she was looking at our software, she's like, oh, this is really cool. She's like, you know what? I just like to do my own research. I just want to hop on and just look at it myself, like that. And then I spoke to a law librarian, like, we kind of want that. We kind of want lawyers to do the simple stuff, but we want to make sure we're valuable, make sure we're valuable in our space and show our worth by doing the things that I think are going to be more time consuming. So it's like a chicken and an egg thing, but that's a real interesting space. And the law library space is what I find it's really in a watershed period, because now, at least in the States, they're like the first ones that are coming back to the office. There's a lot, big time. I was surprised at that, but for some reason they want their staff in the office, lawyers, library, everyone. So they're coming back, and right now they're like in these big discussions, like, what are we going to do with the library? What are we going to do with these books? Like, is this so?
Well, and I think what you're facing, Paul, is that these institutions have lasted a year and a half with very little need for their print collections. Maybe some, but very, very little. You know, right. And you know, now, I mean, you know, lawyers love their books and they love their print and they love their, carrying around that volume that they live in. If they live in it, they should have it in print, but they should also have it digitally, because they're not going to be able to live only in the print. And they didn't live in the print for the last year and a half. But I think you're absolutely right to ask the question. I do think you have two use cases where librarians can be monitoring broader topics and informing people of things that they may not have seen in the news, et cetera. But that doesn't limit the end user from being able to explore, and dig in when they have the time or interest and they have the subject matter knowledge to go deeper than necessarily the librarian can. There's an old term out there called selective dissemination of information, or SDI.
Wow, you're making me feel
You're not old enough to have used that, Richard. You're not old enough to have used that term.
Hey, I'm a documentarian at heart, by the way, if you know what that means.
Documentarian.
Well, I think you're identifying a couple of come to Jesus moments in library land that have really had a fine point put on them by this work from home environment. One of which is that the 4 professions that are most digital changed very radically: law, medicine, MBAs, and engineering. And they're very different. And so the fetishization of the book and the print object disappeared, and we need to not be so part of that religious cult. Then we need to look at discovery mechanisms that their research went, especially in medicine and law and MBAs, went multidisciplinary. So knowing your domain-specific knowledge, like the law or cancer treatments, isn't enough to serve the decision-making.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's an excellent point.
Can I
please jump in
again? Can I bring us back to the model? just because I think the model was a nice tangent, was very interesting. The model is a game changer, especially for information professionals. And I was introduced to it about 4 years ago by a public librarian who had been trained in it, and then she, she ignited an excitement in me for it. Jane knows this, and we did a presentation on it, and haven't done too much since. But I use it all the time in work, and it was instrumental in the public libraries that we worked in for helping people understand what their customers and clients are really trying to do. And that, so I just wanted to ask you, Paul, where do you find, when you're using it with clients, where do you find the, because it is quite a, as you said, it is quite an in-depth process if you get into it. You've used what I would call the icing of it, but where do you find to be sort of the biggest issues in helping people understand what you're doing, or in applying the model?
I'm gonna use one word: ego.
Oh.
So I will tell you this. Listen, there are lots of people who just want to make their jobs easier, which is fine. That should be part of the process. It should be part of the process, right? It's not saying that, there are, and I'm going to kind of go back to that slide where I said a lot of times people get in their own way when they want to decide on a piece of technology that the user is like second nature. It's like, this is going to disrupt this. It's going to cause me to do lots of work. But it actually kind of ends up, it could end up being a cycle. So I find that the challenge is that people just have to leave it. Listen, it's a selfless tool. It's a selfless tool, right? It's really all about, in my eyes, that's why I use it. It's a selfless tool because it's the quickest way to the truth. It's the quickest way to finding solving a problem, right? And doing for me, because I feel I'm doing the best for the client if I can help them remove the ego and help them organize and prioritize their patrons and their needs. That's probably the thing. And the one part that I think, and I'm going to say it again, I think it's a big deal. And maybe I didn't do a good enough job on this, but probably get maybe a better framework or template that if you just kind of follow the template, fill it out, and where you can show your particular employee, you went through all of this work just to make sure to get it right. Right. We were very, very thorough, where we really, really got to know our users and granular levels and their needs. And we put together this statement, and we're going to, this is going to be our purpose. This is what we're going to use to solve the problem. So.
Well, I think it's really profound, and I completely agree about the challenge of ego. And I think that that's true of every entity involved. We struggle often that libraries are funded by people that don't use them. So we have to answer to masters, the user and the value they see in it, and then the person funding it and the value they see in it as well. I think another challenge is identity, and we have our own barriers of identity, as to what our role is as information professionals. And when we bring knowledge management in and understand that people are managing their own information, our identity has to change. And I think that those are, ego and identity are two things to tackle. Or at least try and set aside and use this as a very open, transparent tool for solving a problem. This is great. Thank you.
No.
Rebecca, can you elaborate on how you used it? Like, have you got an example that you could share?
Yeah. So we used it we used it at Brampton to help people get much more comfortable, people, staff, front-facing staff, be much more comfortable in talking with people about what they actually needed to accomplish. So the statement that Paul put forth, right, in terms of, you know, their context, because they'll come in and say they want X.
Yeah.
And in fact, they don't want X at all. They have to get their kids' grade 6 assignment finished.
Yeah.
And they've already told their kid that they can, you know, they can be a part of an online gaming contest. So now the kid's crying because they don't have time to do it. I mean, that's really so what's the job that they need to get done?
Yeah.
They need to get dinner on the table. They need to do their own work. I mean, people have myriad jobs to do. The other way that I've used it is in consulting, certainly. And so most of us as information professionals, whether we're, you know, Juanita running an academic library or anything else, we are consulting. And so to use this statement or this approach in talking with people about what their goals are, people have a hell of a time saying what their goal is, right? They'll go off on blah, 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 blah. But this is a goal crafting statement, right? Because it brings them to the job that what do they actually need to deliver to somebody? Yeah. And that can help with whether we're trying to help them select technology or determine a strategic planning goal, like whatever the hell it is. An organization design. I use it in organization design. I tell you, that's big, because when people are talking about the roles that they need, really, what jobs need to be done here? What are the jobs that we actually, and not positions, but what do we need to deliver to clients? And how does it need to be delivered?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see it as an application in reference interviews with patrons, and even in my own research and trying to sift through archival material. So this is a very useful framework, Paul. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it with us. And I do see that we have about 6 minutes left before we're coming up on the hour. And so if there's any other questions or comments, now is the time to get it in before we wrap up.
Right. I'd love to know what drew people to this. Had they heard about it before? What was it that was interesting to you? Ann Barker, I see you there.
I don't know why I got called on. You cut me off, right? I had unmuted to comment on the other thing, and then you said, let's move back to the...
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm totally joking. I just, I thought it was an interesting topic. I had not heard of it before. And I'm just always interested in kind of the different ways to bring context to what you're being asked to do. I was kind of interpreting back on that slide. I was kind of thinking about it very much in the reference interview process in terms of, I wouldn't be asking a user to craft the statement necessarily. Instead of when I would say, so what is it that you need to do? Yeah. And then what stops you from doing it? Like each of those bits, those 4 bits, if you just turn it around, then it just becomes a reference interview question, and you can compile their statement for them.
Right. We actually are using it right now in helping a library do their strategic planning, which I know I said I'd never do another one. Honestly, this is my last strategic plan. Oh, Juanita, stop it. Like honest to God, really. Anyway, in the consultations with key stakeholders and with the public, we're using that, not exactly that statement, but that essentially that way to help them with their context. They understand their context, and then they really understand it. And when you actually make it simple for people, when you say, isn't one of the jobs you have to do to get to work on time, whether that's virtual and they go, oh, is that what you mean? Yeah, that's what I mean. Like that's part of your customer journey, right? When Stephen brought up about personas, yeah, that's part of your customer journey. That's okay.
And all that list of questions of what stops you from getting to job on time.
Having pants on. Isn't that part of your job to make sure you have pants on before you stand up in front of the Zoom camera? And you don't go to the washroom with the Zoom camera? Who does that?
I don't stand up in front of the Zoom camera.
Well, for the Americans online, we have a member of parliament who's been caught twice doing that.
We have a few on this side of the border too, I'm sure.
Not naked.
Well, on that
No,
lovely
ours was a
note,
news person, wasn't it?
Oh, God.
Anyway, we're way off topic now.
Never mind.
That's what happens in the last 3 minutes.
indeed,
Always
indeed.
happens.
Well, I can even see it applying it to my own to-do list at home, which
There
I
you
have
go.
not been getting through these days. So I think
There
it will
you
be very
go.
useful. Well, I think we shall wrap it up there, just since we're about 3 minutes to. So thank you so much,
Great.
Paul,
Thanks
for
so much,
giving this
Paul.
great presentation, and everyone else for joining. And Jane, what is our next program? Because you are the program queen, and you sent out an email this morning. I know I'm putting you on the spot. Sorry about that, Jane.
We have our SLA Canada reception at the SLA annual conference on I think it's Wednesday, August the 4th, from 5 to 6:30 Eastern Time, with our bingo master Richard Hulser, who's going to lead us in some bingo and have some fun. So that's what we're doing with our Canadian reception there this year. And then following that, that's like early on in the SLA conference cycle. So over the next week or so after that will be a number of SLA programs. So we will not do a Zoom meeting like this again until September. In mid-September, we have one of our sort of several intelligence reports from Gary Price. So Gary's up in September. In October, we're doing something around music libraries, and we're still discussing after that. Okay.
Quick question, Jane, or if anybody knows, do we have to be registered for the SLA conference in order to attend the Canadian reception?
I don't know. I'm having a terrible time figuring out the whole SLA program, I have to tell you. So
Well, and you can't, anyway, we'll take this offline. What day
Okay.
is it? What day is the Canadian reception?
it's Wednesday, August the 4th. And
It is
I
August
had the
4th.
same question to Rebecca about the fellows meeting.
Okay.
Okay, well, sounds like we have some things in the work, and of course the SLA conference coming up.
Great. And I'm just her
yes,
princess. She's the queen. I'm the princess.
I see that.
Thank you.
I'll also add that Jane has on her schedule that we'll ask all of you to help promote is an event for the students in the fall.
Yeah.
Oh, terrific.
Probably November. We're starting to work towards that and bring on the student population across Canada, but also some practitioners like Juanita and Virginia Roy and Stephen and others that have worked with vendors and the different types of careers that they can go into as well. So, you know, from the education side to
Better
the
get
career
Paul
side.
too.
Yeah, there you go. True. Come and join us in November. That's right.
Excellent. Excellent. So thank you all. And Rebecca, I turn it over to you, the tech master, to close us out.